One of the most important aspects to a Call of Duty Zombies map is how unique it is, and this is one thing that I think the recent zombie modes have not done a great job in. So first of all, let's discuss why a map being unique is very important. It obviously is going to allow each experience to feel as different as possible, which almost makes it feel like you're playing a whole new game every time a new map releases. I think it's no secret that when a new game releases, it's way more exciting than any of the DLC drops. But when you have a really solid zombies game where each DLC map feels almost like its own separate game, then each DLC map release ends up having a similar amount of hype and excitement that the launch had. A great example is Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. These are two games that had very unique maps all the way through, to the point where each new map was very exciting for its release. We were all very excited. The hype and the anticipation was there. This was something I didn't really feel during Black Ops Cold War's life cycle. Even though a lot of people were enjoying the game, myself included, I definitely didn't have that same level of excitement when Firebase Z released, or Mauer der Toten, or Forsaken. I was looking forward to the Easter egg and just to see what the map's all about, but in general, I wasn't that excited because I knew the maps were probably not going to be significantly different from each other, which I was kind of right about that. Maps being very unique from each other also gives you a reason to play specific maps over others. There are many maps throughout Zombies history that I don't even like that much, but I'll still go and revisit because there's like one or two specific things about it that makes it special. Now don't get me wrong, it would be completely wrong of me to sit here and say that there are absolutely zero unique features and things within the Cold War maps or Vanguard. There definitely are some map unique things, but just not enough, not as much compared to some of the prior Zombies experiences. Just a few examples of things that were obviously different map to map in Cold War: the map location and layout, aside from obviously some of the locations being reused from campaign. Overall, obviously the locations were different map to map, and the overall layout and feel of them were a bit different, not significantly, but definitely still different locations. The wonder weapons, obviously different map to map. The special enemies, in some cases, there are definitely a lot of enemies that are reused map to map, but there are some, like the Megaton, that was exclusively on D Machine, except for that one part of Mauer der Toten with the Easter egg. But for the most part, it was only on that map, and there's a couple other bosses that are also that same way. The overall story and narrative obviously is going to be different map to map, and then some map features, like for example, Klaus on Mauer der Toten. Obviously, Klaus is not on every map, so that was specific to Mauer der Toten. And what got me to want to make this video was the Liberty Falls reveal, showing that they will be reusing a lot of boss zombies from Terminus, as well as some prior zombie maps from Cold War, and I personally just was not happy to see that. I wanted to see some new bosses that were specific to Liberty Falls, but of course we just did not see that. Instead, we see the Vermin on the map, we see the Manglers, and of course we see the Abomination. We also can presume that a lot of things that also stay the same for every map in Cold War is probably going to happen again in Black Ops 6. For example, the score streaks, being able to turn into the Mangler, which was one of them, is probably going to be something that's going to be on every single map. And of course, there are pros and cons to this, so we're going to talk all about that in this video. But let's go back to the Call of Duty Zombies experiences before Black Ops Cold War and talk about all the things that made the Zombies maps unique and different from one another in those prior games. First thing I want to talk about is map features. Now, of course, like I said before, Cold War does have some map unique features. There are some things there. It just didn't have nearly as many as we do today. A great example I can give is the challenge trial machines. They reuse the exact same challenge trial machine system on every single Black Ops Cold War Zombies map. Literally the exact same challenges, the exact same design for the machine, the exact same mechanics and how the machine works and how you get the challenges and how you do them and how you get rewarded. It's the exact same. Whereas in prior Zombies experiences, if they ever did have a challenge trial system, it was always different map to map. It had some different mechanics to it, it had different look to it, it had different rewards, and to me that's just a lot more interesting when maps find ways to do things differently. Even if sometimes they do it in a way that's not that great, because don't get me wrong, we've had some challenge trial systems before that weren't that amazing, but at least they were different, at least they were unique, and that's exciting. And in general, when you go back to games like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 4, there are so many new mechanics and features to learn on pretty much every single map. It almost feels like you're learning a whole new game at that point because there's so many map specific mechanics that you now can try try to learn and figure out. A good example is the first time I used Afterlife on Mob of the Dead. That was a really new feature and a really interesting mechanic that completely changes how you play Mob of the Dead. And then they also returned it in Shadows of Evil with the Beast mode, which was kind of different than Afterlife, but has the same general concept. But they found a way to change how it looks and how it works and improve upon it in a lot of ways, but it's still a unique feature that does not appear on any other Black Ops 3 map. Next up, let's talk about perks, and this actually only applies to Infinite Warfare and before. World War II and Black Ops 4 actually did have every perk available on every single map, and ever since then, every single Zombies experience has also had every single perk that's in that game available on the map in some way, shape, or form. And for a lot of these points, I'm going to bring up some of the counter arguments that I've heard, because some of them are kind of interesting, and I don't even entirely disagree with some of these counter arguments. One of them I've always been hearing is that if the game forces map unique perks, then inevitably you're going to be taking away content for other maps. As an example, I've always said, wouldn't it be cool if Forsaken was the only map in Cold War that had PhD Slider? Because of course we know when Forsaken came out, they not only added PhD Slider to that map, they also put it into the Wonder Fizz machine on the prior maps in Black Ops Cold War. But what if they kept that perk only on Forsaken? It would give Forsaken that extra map unique element to just give it a little bit more flavor and personality. But what it would also do is take away the ability to use PhD Slider on the other Black Ops Cold War maps. What if you're a big fan of Mauer Toten? Mauer Toten is by far your favorite map in that game, and you actually don't even like Forsaken. You despise Forsaken. You never want to play that map again. Well, now there's a perk that was just added to the game that you will not have the ability to use because you do not want to play Forsaken. So I do understand that argument and I sympathize with it, but I think the importance of a map unique feature kind of outweighs that in a lot of cases. A great example is going back to Buried from Black Ops 2, where they added the Vulture Aid perk. Now, Vulture Aid was exclusively on that map. They didn't put it on Origins, they didn't put it on Mob of the Dead, they didn't put it on any other map in that game. They could have even thrown it into the Wonder Fizz on Origins if they wanted to, but they didn't. They kept it as a exclusive feature to Buried. And I think it fits really well as exclusively being on Buried. Obviously, the theming of the perk fits Buried quite a lot, and even just the abilities of the perk work a lot on Buried. And those abilities wouldn't really make a lot of sense on other maps, but that just gives Buried another map unique feature that was huge and gives me a really huge reason to want to return to Buried frequently because I love using Vulture Aid. It's a really fun perk to use. Now, I do think there's a way to have every perk on every map, but also still finding a way to make them unique depending on the map you're playing. And the Wonder Fizz was actually a great way to do that because the Wonder Fizz doesn't obviously guarantee you a perk, at least with the old Wonder Fizz. So for example, they did bring back Electric Cherry on Origins, but Electric Cherry is not the same on Origins because you don't have the physical perk machine there. So the idea of having a physical perk machine for Electric Cherry is still unique to Mob of the Dead. If you want to get Electric Cherry on Origins, you have to get lucky out of the Wonder Fizz. So I say that still works. That still actually allows for Mob of the Dead to have a map unique feature, but also allows you to put that same perk on Origins just in a different way. But when you go to the new Wonder Fizz system in Black Ops Cold War, there's really nothing about it that's luck-based at all. You can just go up to the Wonder Fizz and buy the perk pretty much whenever you want. I know on D Machine you have to wait a certain amount of rounds, but still, you're going to get to that perk pretty soon regardless. By the time you get enough points for the perks anyways, you're going to just be able to buy all the perks on the map. So it's not like PhD Slider is some, thing that's kind of hard to get on those other maps and it's like easier to get on Forsaken because the physical perk machine is there. No, you can just go up to the Wonder Fizz on Firebase Z and just get it within like the first 10 rounds. It's really no big deal. Therefore, it's not that different regardless of there not being the physical perk machine there. Now, if they had a classic Wonder Fizz system where you would get a random perk, then maybe it would actually work and it would still allow Forsaken to have that map unique feature that feels special to it. And that perfectly leads me into the next topic, which is guns. Now, guns were something that were map specific Black Ops 3 and before. Once you get into Infinite Warfare and onward, it's pretty much every single map has these same guns map to map. There are some exceptions, some, but not many. But I think there's a way to allow every map to feel unique within its gun arsenal while still having every single gun in the game available on every single map. And actually, Infinite Warfare handled this pretty much perfectly. And the simple way is just making sure that the wall weapons are different on every single map. Infinite Warfare did something really, really cool where you had different wall weapons per map, like completely, like the whole entire map, even going as far as to make the spawn room wall weapons completely different on pretty much every map. There were some cases where they used the same one, but for the most part, they were different almost every map. And this works because there isn't some Cold War Wonder Fizz feature where you can just go up to something and just buy whatever gun you want. No, you actually have to get the guns out of the mystery box, or of course you just get the wall weapon. So that makes it so depending on the map you're playing, you can either get the gun directly off the wall, or you might not be able to on that map and you might have to get it from the box. So if you want a specific gun, you know it'll probably be available on the wall on at least one of the maps in the game. I don't think they actually got every single gun on the wall on one map. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of guns in the game that were still not on the wall at all, but still, that is really, really cool. That's a good way to make the maps feel very unique. I do believe Cold War did this in a few cases with the wall weapons, but the problem is you have a loadout system there. You can still load in with whatever gun you want, and we all know how that works. I've already complained about the loadout system before. There really isn't much of a need to using wall weapons regardless. I don't even know the wall weapons by heart in Cold War. Like, I can't even tell you any of the wall weapon locations because I probably use them less than 10 times in the entire game. But even with all of this being said, I still miss map unique weapons. I mean, remember the excitement we all had when the PPSH showed up on Garad Krovi?
The crossbows, yes! Fuck yes, the crossbows. FAR, there was some weird... The random PPSH!
That was just the most excited I've been for anything in zombies, probably ever, to be honest. I was freaking out. If the PPSH appeared on a trailer for a brand new map in Black Ops 6, I just don't think I would have the same level of excitement, especially because the PPSH would just appear on all of the maps in the game, and I think it would take away from the feel of it just a little bit. I think that was such a special aspect of Garad Krovi, the fact that it was the only new map in that game that has the PPSH, and even you go to Zetsubo Noshima, it's the only map that has the Marshall 16s. There's so many examples like that. You even go to Black Ops 2, the Scorpion Evo only appears on Origins, which is a weird thing that it only appears on Origins, but it gives that map at least one more map specific weapon, which is really, really cool. It also helps limit the mystery box pool because I honestly feel like after a certain point in the life cycle, it just gets so frustrating hitting the mystery box in some of these recent Call of Duty games because there's like 100 guns in there by the end of the life cycle, and it's just insane trying to hit for one specific weapon, and it's just like, it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare, and I do feel like if you were to limit the amount of weapons per map, you're not going to have that problem anymore. I mean, Black Ops 2, if you want to get a specific gun out of the box, you're probably going to be able to do it within a reasonable amount of hits because there's not like a million guns in the box on each map. Just like with the perks, one of the main counterpoints I've heard to this argument is, well, oh, I want to be able to use whatever gun I want on any map, especially if you're a big camo grinder and you just want to play the one singular map to camo grind that weapon. Sure, I understand you want more choices as a player, I get that. But I'll be honest, sometimes having more choices is not always a great thing because I personally think it would be more interesting if, let's say you want to grind for one specific weapon, you now have to play the only map where that weapon is available, which gives you more of a reason and more of an incentive to play other maps when grinding. I feel like in Cold War, everyone played D Machine to grind their weapons, and I get why, because obviously the map was quite easy, probably the easiest map in that game. Actually, no, maybe Forsaken's a little bit easier, but when it comes to grinding, I feel like you can maybe get through the levels a bit faster, so it's a bit easier for people to grind, a lot of, open spaces and such, so a lot of people just play D Machine to grind their weapons and get their camos, and that's it. But I think it'd be kind of cool if the game incentivized you to actually play other maps, and of course, if there were specific guns that were only on certain maps, you would have a reason to go to those specific maps and grind them. But as I said before, I think this is something that I'm okay with the guns arsenal being the same on every map, as long as they're able to find a way to make the way you get the guns different map to map. And I think abolishing the loadout system would definitely be a good start, and just making the wall weapons different map to map. I think that would fix it for me personally. Next topic is about specialists and field upgrades. So of course, specialist field upgrades are kind of like a similar thing. And this is actually something that's only been map specific, map unique in Black Ops 3, because we've seen these in World War II, Black Ops 4, and now of course Cold War, Vanguard, and onward. And in all of these games after BO3, these systems are all something that you attach to your character before you even go into the game itself. And again, I understand why. I understand why this is the case, because it just allows there to be more content per map. I understand that, but it also takes away a really huge part of BO3 that I personally loved, which was the idea of going on this quest in order to obtain this special weapon. Of course, there already are wonder weapons in the maps too, but having a secondary wonder weapon type thing that is attached to your specialist ability was just so cool. I mean, thinking about going on the quest for the sword in Shadows of Evil was just such a blast. I also love the skull quest in Zetsubo no Shima, the Garad Krovi dragon gauntlet quest, like such cool specialist weapons that are also map specific. The gauntlet on Garad Krovi only really fits Garad Krovi. I mean, sure, maybe I could see that working on, you know, Darius and Drak or something, but I think it would just kind of take away from the tone of it and the style of it if you were to also throw that on every other map in that game. Same with the Skull and Sapway. Like, I feel like that fits so perfectly on Zetsubo, and if you just throw it in every map, suddenly I feel like it loses some of its value. And I remember being so disappointed with Revelations not having a new specialist weapon, and instead they just reused the Ragnarok. I thought that was so disappointing, and a big part of that was now that Revelations doesn't have a map unique specialist weapon. Then there's also special enemies, which I know I said for Cold War, yes, there are some special enemies that are map unique, and of course that's good, but compared to these older Call of Duties, it wasn't even close. They did a much better job in some of the older CODs, well, older CODs as in the CODs before Black Ops Cold War. They did a much better job with having a lot of map unique special enemies, and if they ever returned to other maps, it was always in a way that made a lot of sense and really worked. A good example is the spiders returning on Revelations after being on Zetsubo no Shima. I thought they fit there. I thought they made sense, and they weren't thrown around every part of the map. They were only inside of the Apothecon, which I thought was pretty cool. And then obviously you go to like Black Ops 4. There are so many map specific bosses that are really, really cool looking, by the way. They don't keep throwing them onto every single map. Sometimes they will have ones that return, like of course the catalysts in the Chaos maps, but those fit the Chaos story quite a bit. Those were something that were consistent, and I think those actually worked quite a bit. I'm a Catalyst defender. I know a lot of people hate those boss zombies, but I actually like them quite a bit. But nowadays I feel like we just keep seeing the Manglers, the Mimics, the Mega Abominations, or just the Abominations in general, just constantly being reused, and I am so sick of them. And it genuinely worries me a lot for Black Ops 6's DLC, because if we get one map, I'm not even kidding, just one map that brings back the Manglers again, or the Mimics, or the Abomination, or the Vermin, I'm gonna go insane probably, because I don't want to see these bosses reused on like every single map. I would actually say that Exo Zombies in World War II did a pretty bad job with this as well, surprisingly. I mean, I know we're talking about those older zombies as all having a bunch of map unique things, but actually those two games didn't do a great job when it comes to their boss zombies. They kept reusing the boss zombies map to map. Instead of just, you know, getting rid of some of them and then bringing in some new ones for the next map, they would just keep them coming again and again and again on every map. Like the Wustlings on World War II zombies, why did we need those on every single map? The only map they're not on is USS Mount Olympus, which is one of the Tortured Path survival maps. But why do we need the Wustlings on every single other map? It's just like insanity. And you go to Exo Zombies, the EMZs on every map. Like, why do we need that? They would have been just fine if they were on one map. Well, actually, personally, if it was up to me, I would have taken those things out of the fucking game entirely. But at least if you're just going to have them on one map, that's fine. But why bring them on every single map? Why not keep them specific to one or two maps? Then next we have equipment, streaks, buildables, anything like that. I feel like the other games just had way more map unique equipment. You don't really see that anymore, because nowadays, just like I talked about before, they feel the need to put them on every single map. And obviously it's very easy for them to do that with the whole new buy station workbench system that's been going on for ever since Cold War, where you have everything available in this one like in-game menu that you can purchase it with salvage. And I'm assuming this exact thing is going to happen again in Black Ops 6. I remember when they added the Casimirs to Black Ops Cold War. I believe Mauer to Toten was the first map that added the Casimirs. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought the Casimirs were really, really awesome. But why did they feel the need to also put them on D Machine and Firebase C? Why couldn't they just be specific to Mauer to Toten? If you want to bring them into Forsaken 2, that's fine as well, whatever. But like, why bring them to the old maps as well? Why not keep those maps how they were? You don't need to have every piece of equipment on every single map. And the same goes for streaks and like any sort of buildable type thing. I know they don't really do buildables anymore. I guess they're all kind of just turned into streaks now. But again, you don't need to have these be on every single map. I thought the ability to become a Mangler on Terminus looks really damn cool, but I don't like the fact that it's also returning on Liberty Falls. How much cooler would it be if it was specific to Terminus? I mean, remember the spider bait from Zetsubo no Shima, how cool the spider bait is, the fact that you can become a spider on that map. Imagine you can do that on every single map. Imagine you could just get it out of the mystery box and you could become the spider on Garad Krovi or Dreisendrach. It would just kind of lose its value. It would lose the importance of it. It would lose the fun of playing Zetsubo and getting the spider bait for the first time. It takes that value away. Maybe in the short term it makes sense. Maybe if you're someone who doesn't really consistently play zombies to the point where you're probably not going to get the spider bait more than once anyways. But for someone who's going to be playing zombies a lot, I think it really does destroy the personality that these maps could be having. Just as an example of a game that handled this very, very well would be Infinite Warfare. Infinite Warfare has a lot of cool traps and buildable things that you can use on the zombies, and you get them in different ways every map as well. I mean, I guess it's very similar on Spaceland and Raven the Redwoods, the way you get them, but some of the things that you can use are actually different map to map. A great example, you go to Shallon Shuffle, you can actually get this Zombie Be Gone potion thing that only appears on that map, and then you go to Attack of the Radioactive Thing and they also have a completely new set of trap buildable things you can get, which is crazy. Like the fact that there's just completely new things that you can get on this map that weren't on the other maps is insane. And they also are very specific to the map and they fit the map theme. They fit that 50s era monster movie theme, which is awesome. The fact that we have these specific map things that fit the theming of the map and don't just feel like they're multiplayer streaks thrown into every single map. You also have the Little Arnie's, which only appears on Shadows of Evil and Revelations, and it fits those maps so well. Imagine if they forced the Little Arnie's on every map in BO3. Those would not fit well at all on a map like Garad Krovi. It would look out of place, it would be kind of stupid. So instead, they put the monkey bombs on those maps, and that gives the maps variety. It gives them uniqueness. That's important. Even if they're functionally very similar, it's just cool to have something that at least looks different. And speaking of something that functions very similar but looks different, shields. Shields were such a cool aspect of Black Ops 3 and 4, and I guess sort of Black Ops 2, and you don't really have that anymore because of the armor system, but at least shields were able to be something very unique map to map. They found different ways to utilize the shield, whether it's different mechanics or if it just looks different. Regardless, it gives the maps personality. It gives the maps something unique about them. I can't tell you how many times I love going back to a map like 9 just to use that Brazen Bull shield. It is so much fun. It is so cool. But you don't have that anymore with the armor system because the armor system is the exact same on every single map. And then there's also the tonal differences between the map's atmospheres, and I do feel like the games that did this the best were Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, and Infinite Warfare, which I keep mentioning those 4 zombies games. They are my 4 favorite zombies games, and I do feel like in terms of map uniqueness, they do some of the best at that. But having different maps within different time periods, different settings, like completely different tones is really important, and I think makes a big difference when it comes to your experience with each map in that game. The fact that playing Black Ops 2, you can go from playing at Alcatraz in this very horror-filled, like almost serious mobster-toned map, and then you can go to Buried, which is this western town underground, which is really interesting. And then the next map is a steampunk World War I map. Like, that is so unique and different. There's no similarities between those tones or atmospheres, which is really cool. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's okay if you have a game where the tones are the same for each map. Something like Infinite Warfare, for example, I feel like all those maps definitely were leaning towards being more goofy, except for maybe Beast from Beyond. That map didn't feel as goofy as the others, but that's okay because the game as a whole is trying to go for that consistent tone, and they're able to make the theming of the maps very different. So I think it really just depends on how you handle it. But then if you have a game like Cold War, yes, the locations are very different, the color palettes are very different map to map, but I don't feel like the tone changes whatsoever. I don't feel like the atmosphere changes too much. They all kind of just feel like you're at a military base, some sort of facility, and that's about it. And yes, I know we've had many facility maps throughout Zombies, but they were always able to do something a little more interesting with it. I mean, look at Black Ops 3. You have most of those maps taking place at a facility, but there is something about the atmosphere and the tone that makes them work, and it makes them feel different from one another. And lastly, there's music. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are some map-specific pieces of music on the Black Ops Cold War maps. I'm not saying there's absolutely zero of that. That would be 100% false. But compared to some of these other games, there's not nearly as much. They reuse a lot of music map to map. Just as an example, like the exfil music will be the exact same, or the music when you're doing the different challenge trials will be the exact same. They kind of just reuse a lot of themes, and I personally don't like that. I want each map to have its own complete feel 100% of the time. Obviously, games like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, and Infinite Warfare did a great job with that. I won't say all of the other games did a great job with that though, because like Exo Zombies, World War II, they reuse a lot of music. Obviously, the old games reuse a lot of music. I get that, those are different. You know, obviously not every game did great with this, but I really want them to go back to that idea of having just so many map-specific pieces of music. And of course, I also would like it to be original music, not reused from the campaign. I mean, here and there, reusing some stuff from the campaign's fine, just not too much of it to the point where it kind of loses its value. But even with all of this being said, even if you have a game where most of these things are the same map to map, you just have to find a way to make sure you make these maps unique in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like a game like Black Ops 4 did a fantastic job with that, even though Black Ops 4 has the exact same perks map to map, the exact same guns, the exact same specialists. A lot of these things are the same map to map, but because there's so many unique quests on each of these maps, there's obviously a lot of depth to the main Easter egg quests as well. You have some specific like special weapons you can get, special items you can get beyond just the wonder weapons on some of the maps. As long as you're able to throw in enough of that, then I think it's okay. And I think Black Ops 6 hopefully will be able to do this. I don't think they showed us everything in the reveal, obviously. So I think there's going to be more that's going to be on Liberty Falls, more that's going to be on Terminus that will be hidden and hopefully could give these maps more of a unique flair to them beyond just what we've seen so far. At the end of the day, I can totally understand the opposite perspective on this issue and probably why we're having this happen in the first place, because there's a lot of people out there that don't want to have to play specific maps. They want to just be able to hop in and have everything they can possibly think of available on any map at a time. I mean, hell, I think if they can throw every wonder weapon on every map too and just go even a step further, I think a lot of people would be completely fine with that. But I personally think it's important in a game to make sure people are incentivized to do different things in the game. You can't just rely on their own will to start playing different things in the game. You know what I mean? You want to encourage people to play other maps. And the only real encouragement is obviously the things we mentioned before, like, yeah, okay, there's different storylines to the other maps. You can do the other Easter eggs if you'd like. But even in terms of like map layouts, I feel like the maps aren't that different in terms of layouts in Cold War. Every map is relatively open. There's not many areas that are that close quarters compared to some older maps. And again, I think that does take away the uniqueness and it takes away the excitement of playing a new map if you know it's not going to be that different than what you played previously. The last thing I want to discuss is also just having zombies unique features rather than just the map specific features, things that are also just unique to the zombies mode, because lately we've been seeing a lot of things being reused from campaign, multiplayer, Warzone, and I think that's obviously a problem when there's just so many things being reused. Obviously, zombies from its beginning was reusing assets. It began with just taking a location from a campaign mission, which is also from a multiplayer map, and just turning it into a zombies map. I understand that, but over time we started to get way more zombies unique things, and then we're at a point where like Black Ops 3 and 4 was almost having nothing that feels like it's coming from multiplayer or campaign. Obviously there are some things that they're obviously reusing, for example stuff like the bow from Der Eisendrache that technically is reusing some assets from the bow that's in multiplayer, but that's not really a problem because they completely changed the style of it, the look of it. You wouldn't even know that that was being reused for multiplayer unless you really look into the little details of it. But something like a full location like Forsaken, that's obviously from the campaign mission. If you played Black Ops Cold War's campaign, you know that entire map is just from the campaign. So stuff like that kind of just takes away the zombies unique feel as well. Obviously we've been complaining about the HUD recently, which basically just feels copy and pasted from multiplayer and Warzone. So overall this conversation goes beyond just talking about zombies map unique features, but also it's just zombies features in general, just the entire mode. We need more unique things to the mode to keep it fresh and interesting. All in all, I really hope this isn't a problem when Black Ops 6 comes out. Hopefully throughout the DLC, we see a lot of map unique features and things that are unique to the full zombies experience. The more of that, the better. I do think regardless, BO6 Zombies is going to be fun and enjoyable, but to go that extra level, it's definitely going to need some more map specific features. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace out.